自2011年3月11日，日本發生世紀核輻射泄漏事故，至今經已超過3年嘅時間。高濃度嘅輻射污水持續流入大海。2014年8月21日，日本原子能規制委員會話，福島第一核電站儲水罐泄漏咗大約300噸強輻射污水，經已達到失控程度。考慮將事件嘅程度由表示異常嘅第1級警示跳升至表示嚴重嘅第3級。當國際核事件評級每上調1個級別嘅時候，意味住嚴重程度係先前嘅10倍。而原子能規制委員會委員更田豐志話，呢次分級依託嘅係300噸污水泄漏呢一個數據，但係我真係懷疑能唔能夠信任東電提供嘅數據。我真係懷疑係咪應該根據東電嘅數據作出判斷。控制輻射污水泄漏嘅戰役已經持續2年，但係日本福島第一核電站屢戰屢敗。東京電力公司更明確表態，開口要求外援，需要外國嘅援助控制呢場危機。截至8月13日，東電使用儲水罐儲存咗33萬噸輻射污水，佔地相當於37個足球場。東電正係砍伐樹木，以騰出空間放置更多儲水罐，但污水卻以每日400噸嘅速度增加。以一座容量1000噸輻射污水嘅儲水罐，至少泄漏300噸強輻射污水，每小時輻射水準係人體每年所能夠承受上限嘅5倍。然而資料顯示，大部分泄漏嘅污水可能已經滲入儲水罐區周邊土壤同埋流入附近嘅海裡面。東電一名發言人話，自2011年5月以嚟，大約20萬億貝克放射性銫同埋10萬億貝克放射性鍶經已泄入大海，相當於正常情況下福島核電站每年入海輻射物上限嘅100倍。原子能規制委員會主席田中俊一話，福島核電站就好似遊樂場裡面嘅鬼屋。我唔知道以呢種方式形容佢係咪合適，只係倒霉嘅事不斷發生，一宗接一宗。我哋必須研究點樣能夠減少風險，點樣阻止泄漏變成致命或者嚴重嘅事件。此外，2014年3月10日，伍茲霍爾海洋研究所嘅一位科學家公佈，隨住海水而擴散嘅福島核輻射污染水喺4月份會抵達美國西海岸。事實上，現時喺美國西岸已經有過萬人身體測出輻射超標。另一方面，2名資深潛水工作者 Dana Dunford 同埋 Terry Daniels， 佢哋從事海洋工作超過6年。2014年8月，佢哋由加拿大西岸整個200公里太平洋海岸線嘅潮汐區，卻發現海洋生物大量死亡，海洋生態經已缺乏所有嘅生命。喺2011年3月發生核災難之前，廣闊嘅潮汐區都可以發現擁有超過5500種海洋生物，但係核災難發生之後，至今潮汐區內大量海洋生物經已死亡，剩餘少量嘅生物亦都只係苟延殘喘咁掙扎求存。
Hi folks, welcome to onthenuclearproctologist.org. My name is Dana Durnford. This is Terry Daniels. Terry went down on the beaches and took all the photos, and so we rented a boat, and we'll jump on that, and we went up to the very farthest one, which is Desolation Sound, and we covered 200 kilometers, and we caught 9 days low tides, and each day was a lower tide than the day before because of the supermoon that we have today, right? And so the last day was yesterday. We covered a mass amount of coastline. We rented a Zodiac and covered around 40 kilometers of Desolation Sound area in a 3-hour ride. At low tide, we see no life whatsoever. We see no kelp forest. We see no habitat. We see no bull kelp. We see no sea anemones. We see 4 species. The ocean is still trying to survive, but we see none of these species. These are all species that normally are populating our coastline. And so in a few minutes, we're going to go offline for 10 minutes, but I'm going to walk you through this for the first few minutes, and then I'll explain that to you. You see, this is low tide line. This is a normal habitat. This is something I've done for 14 years, and it's something I understand that the ocean cannot exist if that doesn't exist. And what happens is, we found 4 species. So we're going to cover that over the next hour and a half. And those 4 species were uniform throughout the 200-kilometer zone. And this is the Georgia Strait we're talking about in British Columbia, Canada. And for comparisons, the big island right here is Vancouver Island. It's 460 kilometers long. And the fact that we found none of these species, we have around 5,000 species, we found no sea anemones anywhere we went. We found only purple starfish. Now this is not a picture of that, but this is what it looks like in the nature. Now look at all the kelp and the algae. Kelp is algae. There's 600 species of it. All of those were missing except for 2. This was known as common kelp, also known as kelp weed. It's like popcorn. And the other one is a cabbage kelp. None of these that you see in the picture here were found in 200 kilometers. We're talking about a total annihilation of sea anemones. Now here's a good example of what I saw every day. We see no crows on the beaches, no eagles. We see no insects on the highways and on the beaches. So, knowing all of that, and it doesn't stop there, we see no whelks. We see no sand dollars. We see no snails, the indigenous populated snails. And like once again, that was the picture of the whelks. But most importantly, at the low tide line, we don't see the sea anemones, and they usually attach to everything. And this is what I'm used to seeing my whole life as a commercial diver. So knowing what you know right now, and knowing that we cover 200 kilometers of coastline, knowing that there's 182 of you watching this right now, we're going to extend the presentation to 2 hours. We're going to cover around 16 samples and show you the desolation left behind. But we're going to go off and make a cup of tea, let everybody settle down, and contact people. Phone up your TV stations, phone up your radio stations. And they might not get online right now, and they might. But they might put us up on websites. They might feature us. We need alternative media to feature this video. And as I explained this to you, I want you to understand that the ocean is still trying, but it can't survive if we don't stop the Fukushima. Even if it's still trying, it doesn't matter if we don't try to stop Fukushima, which is the moral, ethical thing to do. Because we have wiped out around 5,600 species in the low tidal, intertidal areas. You'll find links below to the government sites. So we're going to go out for 10 minutes. We want you to go out and spam for at least 5 of those minutes. Get yourself a cup of tea like we're doing. We're going to come back here and do the presentation. And remember this, there's 4,300 peer-reviewed academic studies every day. If we'd done every single day 4,300 studies, at the end of the week we would all feel a lot better. We had 4,300 studies on water, how to purify it. We had 4,300 studies on how to deal with it. We had 4,300 studies the next day, dedicated universities, institutions, professors, where we would have hope. And that's what we're going to have to take back, right? They have abrogated their responsibilities and hid it away from you, and that's not going to work no more. And what you're going to do now is you're going to go out there, you're going to contact radio stations in your community, mayors, doctors, lawyers, anybody you know with any influence whatsoever, any kind of common sense and sensibility, even if they've never seen the ocean before, it is incumbent upon you to try to bring them here. Just try. That's all we're asking. And if you have a website, if you're mainstream media, you should feature this so you can look back and say you tried, because we will look back and say you didn't. Make no mistake about it. We've never seen any insects in the entire time except for maybe 4 flies. We've seen probably 5 or 10 wasps and bees in total in 200 kilometers. None hit our windshield when we're on the highway. None were embedded into the grills. These kelp forests, I used to dive in these kelp forests and get tangled up. And I used to describe it like being caught in a spider web. And I would take the regulator in my mouth and chew through the kelp to free myself up. And that's not a joke. I used to spend 6 hours a day. And so I'm intimately I have an intimate knowledge of the ocean year after year, 315 days a year, up to 6 hours a day on the ocean floor. I consider myself a connoisseur of Mother Nature. And these are familiar sights to me, and at low tide I expect to see these. In 200 kilometers, we never seen any of these.
明顯，日本核輻射洩漏事故經已對海洋生態造成不可挽回嘅毀滅性破壞。